day. It's you I live for every day. I'll follow after you every day. I'll walk with you, my Lord. It's you I live for every day.
Good evening. In our session together, we're going to be talking about a passage out of 1 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 25, where Paul is going to encourage us to care for one another. Now, this is one of those passages where I really think it's important to look at the context. And I want to encourage you, whenever you study the Bible, to understand how important it is to look at the context in which a passage is found. And by that, what I mean is, read the verses before the passage and read some of the verses after the passage. Now, it can depend. The context may be several chapters. The context may be just a couple of verses. But it really helps to get an understanding of what the writer's saying if you place what you're reading in the larger context of what's around it. And I think that's particularly true here, where he's encouraging the brethren, encouraging us to care for one another. The larger context of this is Paul's discussion of problems that brethren are having with each other at Corinth, particularly in the worship service. The context starts in chapter 11, goes clear through chapter 14. In chapter 11, he's going to be talking to them about how they've messed up the Lord's Supper and how they need to straighten out their attitudes about the Lord's Supper, because something that's supposed to be bringing them together is in actuality dividing them. And then in chapters 12 through 14, he's talking about how in the assembly, the way that they use and exercise the spiritual gifts that have been given to them, which are supposed to be a blessing to the church, are in reality causing division within the church. And he's saying also, in the same context, you need to get this taken care of as well. But in chapter 12, he develops a very important analogy, one that he'll use several times in the New Testament. He's going to tell the church, hey, you are the body of Christ. And he'll start talking about our physical bodies and using our physical bodies as an analogy for the body of Christ. And he'll say, every member of the body is important. The hand can't say to the eye, I don't need you. The eye can't say to the hand, I don't need you, that kind of thing. Every part of the body has a role. Now, some parts of the body may be seen as more important than others, but the bottom line is that every part of the body is necessary. Every part of the body is important. And in that context then, what he's saying is, there is no member of the church, there is no part of the body of Christ that isn't important, that isn't significant. There's no one that we shouldn't care deeply about. Because you see, we're all bound together as the body of Christ. And as if to emphasize that, and this is why I think it's important that you read context, in the very next verse, in verse 26 of chapter 12, he's going to say this: if one member suffers, all suffer together. If one member is honored, all rejoice together. Now, what he's doing here is drawing out this analogy of the body, and the fact that every part of the body is important, and if one part of the body functions right, then the whole body is rewarded for it. If one part of the body suffers, the whole body suffers. If I get up in the middle of the night and I'm walking around in the dark and Carol's moved a piece of furniture and I bang my big toe into it, my whole body is going to go bouncing around the room, and my hands are going to be grabbing at my big toe, and probably all kinds of contortions are going to take place. Now all I did was bump my big toe, but my whole body is going to suffer because of that. And it's the same way in the body of Christ. If any part of the body hurts, Paul says we need to understand that hurts the whole body. In the same way, if one part of the body is honored, the whole body should rejoice. You take a girl who's a great fast-pitch softball pitcher, and let's say she throws a no-hitter, wins the championship game, she gets the MVP trophy. Do they hand the trophy to her arm? even though it was with her arm that she pitched those balls? No. They're going to give that trophy to her. Because we understand and know that, yeah, well, we talk about the pitcher. Well, that pitcher's got quite an arm. We also understand that arm's connected to the shoulder, and that's connected to the body, and that if everything didn't function together correctly, there's no way that she could throw a no-hitter. And so while the arm is said to be an incredibly important part of it, and it is, the whole body rejoices in the victory. And so it should be in the body of Christ. Everybody matters. Everybody is important. Earlier, Paul has said the Spirit has placed everybody in the body with a specific purpose, given a specific gift. And we need to honor that and understand that and appreciate that and see that in the body of Christ, we really do need to genuinely care for one another, because we all need each other. And if one part of the body hurts, yeah, the whole body needs to hurt. And if one part of the body is honored, the whole body needs to rejoice. Because you see, we really are all in this together. And so as you discuss this passage this evening, and we talk about ways in which we can show care for one another, think about what Paul teaches us here about the importance of understanding the church as a body of Christ. God bless you.
Love one another. Serve one another. Pray for each other. Encourage one another.